Jeff, I'm a sports fan. I remember this happening. Obviously, it has a massive legacy. And I guess I'm kind of curious if you can just kind of intro for everyone, what got you involved in the creation of this version of this story?
Yeah. Well, I think at NFL Films, we're always mindful of anniversaries on our timeline, right? There's just such a good hook and a latching on point for projects like this. And when the 40th anniversary of the '85 Bears championship team kind of came across our radar, just knowing how intertwined and connected that team is to this music video and that cultural phenomenon that it became, um, we looked at that and realized that outside of some news articles or some online media, no one had really chronicled the creation, the genesis, and the production of this music video from start to finish. That said, we had a new, excuse me, project with HBO that we're partnering with for this new series of short documentaries, and we felt like that story just kind of fit that format perfectly. Not quite long enough for a feature, not a multi-part series by any stretch, but just a finite story in which we could now get in deep and just hyper focus on that 10 to 12 week span between the Bears recording this rap song and the Super Bowl in which they made good on their claim.
Yeah, so there's a couple interesting things. Like they called their shot, and there's something kind of crazy about that. And people were definitely like, "Wait, this is gonna jinx them, or it's football. Anything can happen anytime." And the other thing about it that's crazy is contextualizing for the modern sports fan, for anyone born since then, who has no concept of how different sports media and the whole experience was. And I wonder if you can give us just a little taste of like how much that is explored and just explodes on the screen for anyone new to just understand that the time was so wildly different.
Yeah, I mean, like a music video media standpoint, this is obviously predates social media. There was one channel, and that's where you got your music video, and that was MTV. And we certainly, introduce and explore that as the method through which everyone saw the same music videos. There was no algorithm feeding you things that thought you would like. There was
Yeah.
everyone shared this common experience of, oh, this is the popular music video of the time. So when we say it ended up becoming the second highest selling music video of all time behind Michael Jackson's Thriller, it's because that everyone was experiencing this at a time where there weren't a whole lot of other options to consume that media.
Monoculture, which hardly exists anymore, and it was
Right.
right smack dab in the middle between football, music, all of it. Um, can you talk about bringing talking to some of the guys like who are part of it now and kind of their reflections and just what that was like for you and bringing them into the recap and bringing it all back to life?
Absolutely. So I think the star of the doc is Mike Singletary, and I hadn't had the chance to meet him before this project or interview him. So I didn't, know what to expect. He, of course, arrives at the interview, and he is the nicest man alive. Just the sweetest. He's soft spoken. His energy level is kind of, always right here, very reserved. Um, and so, we're talking, and midway through the interview, we get to the part where they've just lost to the Dolphins on Monday Night Football, on national television, and there's teammates that have agreed to do this that are starting to back out. They're having doubts. They don't necessarily want to do this anymore because they have to shoot the music video the next day, the following morning, right? So it falls on him to kind of get the guys back as the leader of the defense, get them back in line, remind them that they committed to this. And as he's telling the story about how he talked to the guys, he's starting to raise his voice, that deep voice, and his eyes are starting to widen. And I was like, oh, right. I'm sitting across from Mike Singletary, the most intimidating linebacker, perhaps of the 1980s. I had forgotten for a moment. Um, so that was a fun moment.
Yeah, so like the beast comes out a little bit in that
Yeah,
moment.
right. Every image we have in our archive of Mike Singletary, wide eyes, peering over the line of scrimmage, making quarterbacks absolutely tremble. That was me in the interview chair.
That's amazing. Other things that you learned, like what are some things you feel like audiences will find out for the first time? Obviously, some people know very little, but some people know about this and the Super Bowl shuffle and stuff. But like Is there what came out that you were like, that's new, that's interesting? Like,
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially for the guys that I interviewed who I thought may have known about this beforehand, the Bears and the Patriots, they win their respective conference championship games, and they're squaring up for the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, and the Patriots respond with a music video of their own, kind of as a rebuttal to the Super Bowl shuffle. Um, I didn't know about that before I started this project, and as it turns out, when I asked all the players about whether or not they knew about it, they hadn't either. So showing
wow.
them that music video and watching their real time reaction to this response was special. Something I think viewers will really enjoy.
Yeah, that is really funny, and I didn't know you didn't know about it. That's funny too. So that'll be something for people to enjoy. Do you think there's something in this that sort of has a sort of commentary or allows us to reflect a little bit on how much media culture has changed and how much our relationship to athletes and sports has changed, you know? Because that's kind of
Yeah,
interesting to me in watching it is thinking about those things.
yeah. I mean, through researching it and kind of framing my questions to these guys, something that always came up was when you watch any press conference after games these days, and players even show the slightest hint of confidence that they might win their next game, or any kind of thing that even has a shade of a guarantee that they're going to do well. It's instant bulletin board material. It's all over the morning sports shows, and it just becomes a topic throughout the week that's kind of beaten to death. And it dominates the storyline. And I think, you know, these guys made a rap music video. Um, came out before they had even made the playoffs about going to the Super Bowl. Just a wildly different time, a wildly different time that I think this short doc celebrates.
And like, don't you think we kind of like I feel like we miss that a little bit. Like I think we miss a little bit of that and it's kind of lost. And like I would hope that in some way something like this could bring back a little bit of the chutzpah or just the desire to be like brazen in some way because that was a big part of 80s sports, honestly. And I think that
Yeah,
you remind everybody of what that was and it's part of the fun, part of the entertainment, right?
yeah, and then again, I bring it back to Mike Singletary. The most humble man you will ever meet, but even he is at the end by the end of it, he says, of course there's a way to win, and you should be humble and respectful of your opponent. But every now and then, there's a special set of circumstances that you just have to embrace, a unique cast of characters and a unique moment in time that it's okay to be yourself, and you should enjoy it because you never know when those moments will happen again.
Yeah, did any of the guys reflect back on it in any ways that kind of surprised you? Did you hear anything else that you were like, wow, I didn't like did anybody bring in a story that kind of surprised you aside from like just from looking at it now, their experience with it?
Uh, I liked, Gary Fensick had a good story where he says that after it was said and done, people came to him and said, "Oh, you were a better dancer than Steve Fuller, at least." And of course, he says, "Well, Steve Fuller, the previous night on Monday night, he'd gotten injured and he was on crutches, so all he could do was kind of, shuffle back and forth on one leg." So yeah, that was a fun story from Gary.
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, I think that, the way tell me a little bit about like you obviously go into it with a certain plan as a documentary filmmaker, but then sometimes reality and interviews take you in a different direction. What was there something as you were going through it, kind of sifting through footage and talking to people that you realized the block of marble started to become the statue, sort of, in a way you didn't initially anticipate, like as you were crafting?
Yeah, I prided myself on going into all these interviews very well researched. And again, with Singletary's, he brought up a good point where again they're filming this music video after the Monday night loss to Miami, and he made a really good point. He said, if not for the shuffle, they have Tuesday off, right? They don't see each other, they don't hang out. The next time they get together is Wednesday morning, probably the film session or practice, and they don't get to laugh away. They don't get to just regroup as a group of guys that love each other and properly just compartmentalize that loss and kind of get back on track. So in a weird twist of fate, he, something that at the time was probably a little bold and a little embarrassing for some of the guys, ended up being a rallying point and a point in time in which they saw each other singing and dancing and just were able to kind of just put the loss behind them, get back together, and be reminded, oh, we got to do things together as a group. So he gives the that, and I hadn't even thought about that. That never even considered, crossed my mind.
Yeah, that is kind of at the core of the story is that it ended up playing such a role in defining the success, even though it's like anticipating it, it does become interwoven with the success that they would later have, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I also, I mean, I going into it, I had no, I like most people, I thought, you hear about the Super Bowl Shuffle, and maybe you watch it, and you think, oh, okay, that's great. They won their conference championship game, and they made a music video. They decided to have a little fun, celebrate this fact that they're going to the Super
right,
Bowl. That is not what happened. That's not how it went down. This started in week 7, and week 11 they're recording vocals, in week 13, which as we sit here today is next week.
right.
They made this thing. So I didn't know that until I guess recently. And when I learned that, I that was the hook. That was the thread that was going to take us through this short doc, reminding viewers, every few minutes, oh, by the way, we're still in the regular season.
Yeah,
Like
I think
this is an insane thing that they're doing.
it really does for those of us, if you haven't watched it and you don't remember the details, you do assume that it was a celebratory event, not happening in the middle of a season where nobody knows who's even going to be on, it's football. Anybody could be out next week, you know?
Yeah, crazy.
Is there one thing off topic a little bit, just like, is there a topic you would love to tackle with this kind of project, with these short docs in sports? Like aside from this, something on your like, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a few, certainly. Kind of like I was saying at the beginning, I think there's a lot of creative freedom you have with short doc. Like for this one, for instance, like we knew we weren't going to get into the 4-6 defense. We're not going to get into, their whole season. We drop you into a moment in time. It is November 1985.
Yeah,
Here's where we're at. Here are the stakes. So I think just by the nature of the short doc genre, it kind of just eliminates the need to do this broad context that takes a lot of time, and you can just get really into a unique story that is sometimes glossed over because of other formats.
cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. I really appreciate it. It's great, and I look forward to people seeing it. So.
It was a pleasure.